pretty well. Moosh actually playing the Throne Warden.
You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Eternal Tournament Series. We are in round 5 of Season 1, Week 8, the final week before the LCQ and the Invitational. I am Gabe, also known as Calendar, and in the booth with me to break down all the action is LocoPojo.
Yeah, so we got a pretty interesting matchup here. We got Mavericus on a TJP mid-range deck using a lot of interesting stuff. In particular, I'm really excited by the 3-drop slot of False Prince, Huru Pacifier, and Knight Chancellor Seraph, combined with some stand-togethers, Sheltering Riders, Cersos, and really just all of the good stuff mid-range out of all of the different TJP setups. A lot of interesting cards there, and we'll see maybe even a scouting party out of it. And could be a pretty good round. He's up against Unearthly on Argenport mid-range. This looks like the stockest of stock. We have Rip Knife Assassin now added into the 2-drop slot, making Argenport Instigator and Assassin the 2 leads, followed by the Interrogator Commando, Impending Doom, and finally Tavrod Broker. So going to be a lot of good aggressive stuff, and we'll see if this list is going to do as well as the other Argenport mid-range lists that we've seen so far.
Yeah, this Argenport mid-range list is pretty similar to the one we saw before. Not running Crown Watch Paladin, just running more Instigators and things like that.
None of that
And
Inquisitor's Blade delightfulness either.
yeah. No Inquisitor's Blade. Instead playing Impending Doom, and just a couple more threats and things like that. And also not playing Crown Watch Trader. So it should be interesting. Definitely a deck Unearthly is very comfortable with. An interesting matchup as well because of how it plays out. There's normally not a lot of flying in the Combi Party deck, but now that there's Huru Pacifier and Shelterwing Rider in this deck, this could be anybody's game for sure.
Yeah, it could be very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, and players will get into the match shortly. Unearthly, for those not familiar, actually last year's Player of the Year, taking second place in the World Finals last year. So looking to take first this year, starting perhaps with the next invitation.
Yeah,
Next weekend.
well, he's got a couple of decent options to do it here. He's looking at the basic early setup. His Unseen Commandos are looking pretty okay here. He's got Tavrod going on, no 2-drops, so it's not that aggressive, but the curve is good enough that I think he's going to go for it.
Yeah, I think Mavericus' hand is very good. I mean, obviously, all depleted power, but when you're playing a 3-faction deck like this, that's what you
That's
expect.
par for the course, yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be able to play Elysian Banner on a turn after he plays Desert Marshal, or on the same turn as he plays like his Awakened Student. So there's some ways that he can get some good stuff across.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, he does have all of the influence that he needs for all of his cards. He'll be able to crystallize. He'll be able to play basically everything. It's just a matter of whether or not he can outrace Unearthly's more life-gainy, more advantage-focused early setup. And 2 Unseen Commandos are devastating.
I think this Sabotage and the Lifesteal is going to just spell defeat for Mavericus, though, because I think he really needs that Crystallize and to sort of swing the race in his favor. And then also he kind of wins because his units are a bit bigger, but it doesn't matter when Unearthly has Lifesteal. So there's just a little too much going on in favor of Unearthly right now.
Yeah, Unearthly's got the Vanquishes for the Sheltering Riders and for the Awakened Student. He doesn't really need to kill the Awakened Student. He just needs to make sure that the Sheltering Rider's out of the way so that he can continue to gain life. And he can deal with the Awakened Student on his own time whenever he feels like it. This is probably a good turn for Argenport Instigator, and if that's the case, then he's got a reasonable amount of development on the board.
Yeah, and Unearthly can, at this point, basically just ride these Unseen Commandos to victory and just make sure the air is clear for them and it doesn't take too much damage on the ground, but getting 8 life return is just something Mavericus' deck cannot deal with.
Yep. Just way too much. The Desert Marshal does knock something down, and that means that the False Prince or the Desert Marshal, or the False Prince or the Awakened Student can block it. I'm actually a little surprised he goes for the Awakened Student over the False Prince, but it doesn't really matter here. Unearthly doesn't have straight removal either way, so we see the hit come in, and there we go. It's a little bit of damage to Unearthly, and the Unseen Commando is suddenly a lot less effective.
Yeah, now that it's just effectively blocked by this Shelterwing Rider for the unforeseen future, or for the immediate future, you know.
Yeah, it's still going to gain him 3 life a turn, but that's not really stabilizing. Unearthly does have access to Tavrod, but he's got to really decide whether or not this Sabo is going to be worth it here. It will get a Vanquish if he uses it on Mavericus this turn.
And he's gonna go for that. So pretty nice pickup there. I'm just gonna try and gain 3 life and get in for this 2 damage or trade because
Yeah.
oh
Well,
he
it'll
might
be
not.
3, so he won't trade with a Desert Marshal at least. I think this attack is probably correct, but he's really got to think about it here.
Yeah, with the Unseen Commander out, it does get buffed up to 3 here on this attack, so that makes it a bit better. And even if he trades, he's still getting a Warcry out of this, so I quite like this attack. Plus the Instigator trigger and stuff like that.
Yep, he actually gets the full sprints, so just the threat of damage is too much here, and Mavericus, still playing plenty of good mid-range stuff, is actually looking very good against Unearthly this turn.
Yeah, he's had enough time to stabilize, and he does have the sort of better threats, the threats that kind of get more value and have more stats per power cost. But Unseen Commando is kind of the exception there. And Unearthly going all in on this Unseen Commando plan, just removing the Sheltering Rider there.
It seems like the
And
correct line. He's definitely very far down on basically everything but health. So
yep,
if he goes for the race here, he's going to win just on account of the fact that Mavericus can't really heal himself. On the other hand, that Kothan means that he's got a 4/4 to seal up the board a little bit. Mavericus is going to be sitting pretty at just a little bit less health than normal. And with the 1 damage plus the 3 from the Unseen Commando, Mavericus now basically has to put an owl in the air and hope that that's good enough to stop the Unseen Commando.
yeah, he has to use his whole turn to do that, but I don't think he minds. Plus another Kothon is really good. Wow,
Ooh,
a Interrogator is a great draw here for Unearthly.
yeah, Unearthly doesn't play it. He puts the Tavrod down instead. But Mavericus throwing out a scouting party, looking pretty good. He can actually block the Tavrod if he needs to. The Tavrod attacking is not the end of the game for him in any sense of the word, but if he does get like a Minotaur into a weapon, that could be pretty crucial.
Yeah, Scouting Party was a huge draw from Mavericus there. Um, Also, Impending Doom is big for Unearthly. Both players just drawing absolute bombs here.
Ooh,
Uh,
Tavrod into Tavrod into Bloodletter. Oh man,
wow.
that is pretty low percentage and certainly good for Unearthly. 2 cards off of Tavrod is just the worst. I think that he's looking at a solid play here. He probably has to block the Tavrod just to get rid of it. And since he knows that there's like another Minotaur coming, that's got to be pretty devastating.
Yeah, he knows it hit a Minotaur and a weapon. So it could be Interrogator, could be Tavrod. Neither one of them are really anything he wants to see. Unearthly now, I mean, Mavericus has to keep the air stalled. I mean, he can kind of try to stall the ground indefinitely, but this Instigator will chip away at him. But he has to keep the air stalled, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah, he loses the scouting party here, and of course, Unearthly does get to play another unit. So that means that the scouting party is only attacking for 1 card draw. That's not super great here, and the second Kothan isn't going to fix that problem. I don't know. I feel like maybe Mavericus should just be using these Yetis to chump block, but
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
I think at this point, I'm not sure what gets him out of this game. He doesn't have an answer to this Tavrod. Instigator doesn't ever have to attack and will just eventually kill him. And then this Impending Doom is also, a real card. Interrogator is another card. Both those are must answer threats.
Yeah, Unearthly's really high on health. If Mavericus can actually start getting some good Siraf pulls, he can stall the
That's
game
true.
for a while. But the main problem is that he did lose his flyers, so not going for the stall and trying to just kill the Tavrods is, I think, hurting his game a little bit more. There's a lot of advantage on Unearthly's side now that he has the Tavrods down unanswered, but like you can sort of counter that by just basically using your own board advantage to push that. So I don't know. It's a tough decision either way. I think really Unearthly just got an incredibly lucky pull off the Tavrod.
Yeah, and even without the extra cards, though, I think it was just pretty pretty hard for Mavericus to defeat this hand from Unearthly.
All right, we see an 11-6 and a 10-7 attacking in. He's trying to force as much damage through as possible and just really force his opponent to deal with other options. Tavrod picks up another Tavrod, so certainly doing fine there. And now it's Yetis for the chumps. Definitely going to be jumping in front of harm's way and saving Mavericus for another turn as he tries to set up his Seraph.
I don't know that I love playing the Bloodletter there from Unearthly. It doesn't really matter. Mavericus is gonna die no matter what. But he's essentially just getting in 1 extra damage by doing that
We
because he
see
gets
an
attacked.
Annihilate used on 1 Yeti Scout.
Yep.
That actually puts Mavericus
That
to
actually
1,
wins
so
the
that'll be
game. So
death.
I suppose that was Unearthly's plan there, was to win sort of a half a turn early there.
Yep.
So good play by him for sure. Unearthly obviously showing why he is in the ETS and I'm not.
Yeah, worked out very, very well. I certainly that was a pretty surprising round. So good stuff.
Yeah, so going into sideboards, I think it just keeps getting better for Unearthly. He's got, if he wants, he's got more flying threats in the form of Mokdo if he just wants to keep going over that plan. I just think in general, this matchup is pretty good for Unearthly because it's just that both decks are trying to do something very similar. They're trying to just play efficient threats, protect them, and win the game through that.
Yeah, Mavericus has access to Equivocate, which will allow him to deal with some of the Bloodletter type stuff with the weapons that is a little bit scary, and also gives him better answers to Tavrod, which is very, very important. It's nice to see the Elysian deck having more answers to Tavrod, and getting that kind of setup will help him out quite a bit. But his overall sideboard isn't built particularly strongly against this deck. Like, he's got Unseals, which aren't really good against anything, Permafrost, which is okay, but not particularly good against either of the Minotaurs, and beyond that, like, it's just Theurge and Disciple, neither of which are making a huge impact on the board beyond the deadly unit from Marison's Disciple.
Yeah, Marison's Disciple is okay here, but definitely I think that the two most important cards are Equivocate and Permafrost. Permafrost
Yeah,
doesn't hit, Tavrod, but
Yeah,
it
it
does hit
doesn't hit
just about everything
Tavrod.
else.
It doesn't really hit Auric Interrogator. It's kind of okay against Unseen Commando, and it gets silenced by Valkyrie Enforcer. I really don't love Permafrost against this deck at all, so we will see if it's coming in, but it is at least a little bit more interaction from Avaricus.
Yeah, I think it might be a necessary evil just because one power interaction is tempo is so important in this matchup. But yeah, we'll see as players get into it here.
Yeah, so we're going to see people rolling in their cards, and we'll see exactly what ends up happening. Unearthly is looking at an Argenport banner and a pile of interesting cards here. I'm actually not sure why I can see the top of Unearthly's deck. Possibly a
Might be
Scry.
in the process of. Did he just play a? Okay, so he just played a Crest of Vengeance, is why maybe.
Okay, cool. So he's looking at an Argenport banner, deciding whether or not to keep it on top, and yeah, his overall setup looking just fine.
Yeah, and I imagine that he put it on the bottom just because he already has 5 power in his hand with that Varus favor, so he's just looking to draw more threats. And there's the Argenport banner. All right, so maybe that might have been a spectator bug from us. It might have been he put something else to the bottom, and then we just saw what was under that. But whatever.
No, I think he kept the Argenport banner on top, but we see a shadow here to an Unseen Commando, and from there we are looking pretty solid. We just got a decent amount of attackers going in. Mavericus playing down Seraph, giving him a little bit more to play with, and should be okay for setting up.
Yeah, Ripknife Assassin good, and 2 Tavrods pretty good here.
Yeah. Ripknife's especially strong with the Unseen Commando. Being a 3/3 means that it doesn't get killed by Desert Marshal and other potentially scary things. There's that Permafrost. It doesn't stop the Ripknife, but it does mean that the Unseen Commando is currently on hold. So a little bit less attacking in with the lifesteal. Still, he gets that extra bonus attack from Ripknife.
Yeah, and Instigator is going to be able to push through some damage as well once Mavericus starts to have to block.
Yeah, Mavericus is definitely going to try to. It has no answer for the Tavrod here, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8. and it's looking like it's just not quite good enough because Unearthly gets to just Vara's favor that away. And this deck is playing a little bit too defensive. The Tavrod's going to be able to attack in, and we'll see if he gets another sweet, sweet Tavrod pull. Nope, yeah, that's about the Tavrod style. Just toss a bunch of stuff in the void and maybe get it next
He
turn.
didn't need him anyway.
Yeah, I think your odds of getting something in 2 pulls are very, very good, but your odds of getting 1 are
Yeah.
So
I think Mavericus's deck is just really tuned to beat control decks. Just a lot of Aegis, a lot of difficult to remove threats more than high stats. And Unearthly's deck just comes in and doesn't stop coming in.
Yeah, I think there was from what I've seen of the meta so far, it seems like a lot of people were thinking, "Oh, we'll just make sure that Argenport midrange never shows up by bringing a bunch of Cold Bloods." But that card is only okay against the Argenport midrange decks, and they seem like they're perfectly comfy showing up and doing exactly what they're continuing to do. So,
wow, so Surso pretty good here, except Slay has Surso in its sights, and Tavra is going to be able to attack in again. And in addition to that, there's just an Interrogator coming down. So Unearthly just has huge card advantage here. And I think we're going to see a quick 2-0.
Yep. Getting utterly blitzed here. He doesn't have good answers to the Tav. He doesn't have good answers to the Interrogators. There's just a ton of good options here. And Mavericus, lacking in harsh rules, lacking in options to get rid of these cards, it's getting to be pretty tough. Oh, reinforcements. Pretty good reinforcements.
It wasn't a Roland's Honor Guard, but, you know.
Yeah,
it did its best.
If he were alive this turn, that would be about the best thing that he could have picked up.
Yep.
Because he could just slowly stall out the game and force himself into a position where he could just blow everything up. But nope, down for the count.
And that is Unearthly beating Mavericus 2-0. Mavericus with a pretty cool deck, though. I really like the more flying heavy version of this deck, especially with a lot of control coming around, trying to play some of those early blockers, just sort of playing around that, and also all the Aegis.
It's looking pretty good. So, we will be looking at a potential backup match. We might be looking at Kamado in a second here, but in the meantime, we can have some chats about the new Dead Reckoning set and the upcoming cards.
Yeah, so what's a card that you really like that we haven't talked about?
Oh, goodness. Let's see here. I'm pretty interested in the new Ikaria. I'm pretty excited by both her inclusion in cool Valkyrie decks and also the way that she works out in sort of like Ironthorn style ramp decks where you were just trying to get up to a lot of power for your Huru base or for your 8 of the Huru base.
Yeah, so I personally haven't done too much thinking with Ikaria Valkyrie Captain. I've personally written her off a little bit. I feel like she looked to me like a card that wants to be played in a mid-range to aggressive list, and I just couldn't really think of one that could use her efficiently. Even in a mono justice deck, I felt like she'd be just a little slow, but maybe you have some cooler ideas for her.
Well, we've seen a pretty cool version of Valkyries already floating around, which is very close to what I'd probably want to build. It is like straight Ikaria with just a pile of Valkyries, and then you very, very lightly splash in some shadow for cards like Makto and just a little bit of like extra stuff out there. There's also some cool stuff. Like I think that Ironthorn Huru is really, really interesting, but just Mono Justice is a pretty good deck in general, and certainly that belongs well there. I'm very curious if we can see, with all of the extra Justice ramp that's going on, someone actually playing a Roland in a deck.
Yeah. Roland is actually a pretty cool card. Invulnerable to damage is not a weak effect, but 8 mana is a lot, and limiting it to only Justice cards is a little bit rough. I think that we are out of matches for this round. Maybe I can get word if that's correct or not.
Yeah, it looks like no backup for today. Yeah, so we will be heading to a quick break, and hopefully we'll be back with you very shortly.